All right, welcome to the Dump Jays podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Robillard, with you as always. To my far right, I got Cale Hayes with me today. And special guest, we have Anand with us as well. A lot of you may know him from TikTok and other social media pages. He covers the Calgary Flames usually. And he was just at Sportsnet 960 for his practicum internship. So how's it going, boys?
It's going pretty good. Good. Happy to be here again.
Sounds so enthused.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. This is our first episode in, 2 weeks. We've kind of taken a break for a little bit, but we're kicking it right back in. Before we start, make sure you follow us on all of our social medias. They'll be down in the description below. We are on everywhere where you find your podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. All right. To kick off the show, I kind of wanted to talk about Noah Dobson a little bit. The New York Islanders have him available, or they're at least shopping him a little bit, which I don't think is necessarily a great move. I think he's your cornerstone almost, and I think it's a huge mistake if you let him go. A lot of high value in him as a top pairing defenseman and a high scoring one at that. Just your thoughts all around. We'll go to you first, Hayes.
So yeah, he's on year 3 of his contract, obviously, which was a $4 million yearly cap hit. So, and he's obviously a stud young defenseman, so he's going to be asking for quite a bit of money here. And the Islanders don't have necessarily much cap space to them at the moment. Some LTIR openings, but obviously maybe make a splash in free agency. So if they can, they're not a great scoring hockey team. So as it's kind of been like that for the last couple of years now. So get them, like they're asking for a top kind of scorer, which is what they need. So if they can, like maybe even Mikko Rantanen, he's been shopped. They're going to obviously have to add more to that, but you never know, hopefully. And whatever team's looking to kind of pick up a guy like Dobson, I don't think there has been named any really front runners. So they're going to have quite a bit of cap space coming up if they want to re-sign him too. So
yeah, that's a fair point. I kind of forgot about his contract coming up. But yeah, as you said, the Islanders are probably one of the most boring teams to watch in the NHL.
Them and the Hurricanes. Yeah.
I watched, because of the bubble playoffs back a couple of years ago now, the Flyers played them. And every game went to overtime. It was just the most boring thing I've ever watched in my life.
Yeah, like you said, a young defenseman, of course, the more younger you get in the NHL, that's what teams are looking for. Definitely the contract will be expensive. We have seen different surprising contracts recently, like you said, Mikko Rantanen. We don't know what Dobson will ask for. We'll have to wait and see which teams are even the front runners. I don't think anything has been rumored out there yet. So we'll see, and it depends on if New York Islanders can buy him to stay there, or if not, he might look for a new team.
Yeah, around this time anyways, there's a lot of names that get thrown out. Some reports may be or may are not correct. And Quentin Byfield, I just heard that name. That's kind of been shut down recently. But for example, those names get thrown out a lot, and things can happen in an instance. And things can happen quickly and change drastically, especially this time of the year. So it'll be interesting to see what the deadline brings and even the summer. All right, going into what we're all here for, the Calgary Flames. They've been pretty much a wagon. We were talking about it before the show started. I don't think they're an amazing team, but I think it's really because of Dustin Wolf. And we spoke to Kyle Bukauskas 2 weeks ago. Dustin Wolf is his favorite to win the Calder Trophy, and rightfully so. If the Calgary Flames make the playoffs, he's a big reason as to why. Obviously the Calder race is a tight race. We've been over that multiple times. But you're the Flames guy. What are your thoughts on the team right now?
Yeah, it's surprising how they play each game and how they take it like, for example, right before the Four Nations break, we saw them go into a 3-game losing slump. Then coming after the break, we saw them win against San Jose Sharks. Of course, it was not a pretty game, but yesterday they won against the Capitals 3-1, which I think is a surprise to many. It was Dan Vladar supposed to start last night. He started. He faces one of the toughest teams in between here and there, and is in irregular starts. So I think them getting the win is really important. Now the Capitals are the second team in the division, or in the league, I guess. So them getting that confidence, that win, hopefully it will promote them. They got their wildcard 2 spot yesterday back from the Vancouver Canucks, so they just set 1 point apart. So I think it will be an interesting two to the nail race to where they can get the playoffs. I'm going to wait until this 6-game road trip ends to decide what direction they'll be going. But it's going to be surprising either way. We have been surprised already and far exceeded expectations.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at Vladar's stats on paper, they're not exactly amazing. But yeah, I mean, he plays against the higher end teams. Like, I mean, his last 5, Washington, Seattle's not amazing, but Winnipeg's in there, St. Louis, Utah's been really good this year. And he faces quite a decent amount of shots, 25 to 30 a night. So, I mean, for a guy that doesn't get as many starts as Dustin Wolf, I mean, he's somewhat consistent. I mean, when your team can't really score either, it's a hard mix. I wanted to ask you, do you think the team should be, I'm not sure how you feel about this, but should the team be looking to get a higher draft pick, or do you think the playoffs are something that is good for the team and should be considered like a positive?
You know, playoffs, I think there is 2 ways to look at that. There is one way right now, playoffs is good for the short term because it's the kids putting on the show. Dustin Wolf, you talked about Matt Coronato, Connor Zary, Kevin I wouldn't call Kevin Barton necessarily young, but the way he has been blocking shots, defending well. The team looks much more closer than we have seen in the recent years. They enjoy every moment. Ryan Lomberg, for example, he brings that experience from the current Stanley Cup Championship Florida team. So in that way, when you look at the good aspects of it, there are a lot of good to think about. So in that sense, you want them to make the playoffs. But on the other hand, they're still rebuilding. Craig Conroy has a plan in mind. He wouldn't necessarily say right away it's a retool or a rebuild. He's doing it on the fly, seeing what he can do. There are a couple of key pieces that maybe he's looking to move. So maybe one of the recent examples is Rasmus Anderson. Could he be moved by the end of the trade deadline? That's one thought. Nazem Kadri, is he on the move? Does he want to be with the winning team? I think if you move that pieces away, then you're looking at rebuilding and looking for the future again. And of course, Conroy wants to get younger. He wants to give everybody a chance. Like Elias Soloviev right now with the club right now, he has been impressive. So if you want to see a team younger and be an actual contender, I think a rebuild is the right way to go. But again, you can't tell your team to purposefully lose, purposefully tank, purposefully retool. You need to keep the chemistry going, then only other players will want to come here and see how the team ethic is. So I think there is 2 ways to think about that.
Yeah, for sure. Hayes, your thoughts over there?
Yeah, I think that team's just stuck in mediocrity. So no matter the roster, they'll be 18th to 14th in the league, just kind of getting that 15th draft pick. But yeah, I think if you have a chance to make the playoffs, I think you got to go for it. You obviously never know what can happen. There's been lots of wildcard 2 teams make runs here, so you never know. People sleep on the wildcard 2s, kind of builds up their confidence, make a run, but obviously if they miss, might have to make some moves and start a retool, because team could use a little more youth, but yeah, just got to kind of pick a direction for the future here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone's pretty young on that team, but yeah, scoring and depth are 2 big things for that team, and obviously the reason they're in that spot, like I said, is Dustin Wolf. But their new additions after, I know it's been a couple weeks now, but the Farabee and Frost trade for Peltier and Kuzmenko, as much as I didn't like Frost in a Flyers uniform, I think he fits well with the Flames organization. He hasn't played extremely well with them yet, but I think he's found a good fit, especially with John Tortorella kind of off his back a little bit. Joel Farabee, he's another guy that I haven't really fell in love with, but I didn't mind him in the Flyers organization, and I think he's found a good spot as well in Calgary. But once those two find their groove, they're obviously younger players as well, and I think you move off with Kuzmenko, and Pelletier was probably a harder one to move away from, but I think it was a good return both ways. Your thoughts on the trade there a couple weeks ago now?
Yeah, it was surprising actually. I was doing my practical with Sportsnet 960 that same night when Kuzmenko and Pelletier got traded. Kuzmenko came to play for the Flames that night, but then he got scratched like almost immediately right before warm-ups. And then Jacob Pelletier, he got pulled from the game in the first period. So it was kind of surprising. Especially Kuzmenko was starting to click yet once again. I think he had a lower body injury that he was kind of maybe nagging, something was struggling. Then he scored like 2 game-winning goals recently. So I thought, yeah, there is no chance they'll move on from him. But surprisingly, of course, Craig Conrad knows how to work magic with the team, and he did. And then Jacob Pelletier too. Yes, those players give energy, like especially Pelletier. He was coming rebounding as well. Yeah, I mean, if it's better for the team, now Morgan Frost, talking about him, I've been enjoyed quite a bit of his 5-on-5 game, but I've enjoyed how he takes face-offs. He has elevated that pressure of the Flames team. They were so bad in the face-off dot, now he's winning those key face-offs. Farabee also, haven't liked him as much as of late, but he has been amazing too. One surprising encounter, I think I shared it with you, Dylan. I saw him at Cross-Iron Mills. He recognized me, so kudos to him. I'm happy for him. But like you said, both of them want to find their growth. They played like three games in 4 different time zones, and then they had a 2-week break, so they haven't really able to connect with the team just yet, and they have been getting different players to work with too. So I think the team chemistry is coming. Eventually I want to maybe see Zary with Frost and Farabee. That's one line we could look forward to, or something like that. So yeah, I've liked the players so far, especially Frost on the face-off zone. But I think that will come with work and team chemistry overall.
For sure. I mean, it hasn't even been a full calendar month yet to see like what all of these players look like. Like, I mean, it took Pelletier and Kuzmenko like 2 weeks to even get their visas to come to Philadelphia. So, yeah, like building that chemistry on both sides. Obviously, getting used to new time zones and playing X amount of nights in different cities with the new team, it's difficult. So, Cale, your thoughts on the trade?
Yeah, I think both teams got what they needed out of that. So Kuzmenko obviously struggled a lot with Calgary, in and out of the lineup, kind of putting up mediocre points, just kind of didn't mesh. And I like how they sent him to Philly to play with Michkov, another Russian there. So he's been clicking in Philly too, so that's good to see. And Flames got what they needed out of it too. I think it was a very fair trade. Got some depth, maybe some 20 goal scorers, some penalty killing. So I think that was a great trade for both teams, and that management in Calgary has been very underrated, because like from coaching staff to general manager, that team should nowhere be near a playoff spot. So they've done a fantastic job over there, and if they can keep it up, that could be a Jack Adams and Greg Conroy there. So, yeah.
I think the Capitals take the...
well, Carberry, that's obviously the favorite. So
yeah, I think on all fronts it was kind of just a good trade for everyone. And I mean, even the players involved, they're all great guys, all 4 of them included. The draft picks the Flyers got back aren't too big of a deal. I mean, it's a really late pick and then a second, so nothing too thrilling there. But I think we're all good on that front. Let's talk a little 4 nations. Just kind of recapping the tournament a little bit. Obviously, Canada won, and I think truly Canada needed that as a whole right now. I'll be honest, at the start, before it started, I wasn't really interested in it. I thought the 4 nations was kind of like a wash. It would be a little bit of a joke, like it was kind of whatever, not competitive hockey. But once those teams put those country sweaters on, they competed, they were competitive. Like, it was thrilling hockey to watch, especially Canada versus USA, especially with everything going on now. I don't really get into politics and stuff, but obviously that played a factor as well. And I mean, kudos to Gary Bettman. He actually did something to benefit the NHL and like brought in viewership. Like it was one of the most viewed tournaments in single game in this whole season, and it's been a long time since we've seen those numbers. Yeah, just your guys' thoughts on the Four Nations as a whole at the moment.
I think that was. I haven't turned on a hockey game since that gold medal game because nothing's gonna owe up to that. That was unbelievable. I think Gary Bettman did a fantastic job coming up with that because, like, if you watch any other sports and their All-Star game, it's pretty tough to watch it. So I think what he did there and kept it best on best, but made it worth something. I think that was a brilliant idea and actually made it best on best. Players tried, obviously 3 fights in 9 seconds of that first game. That's kind of what brought me into it, because first games were okay. Obviously Sweden, Finland, just 2 good teams, good rivalry there, but it's no Canada, USA. So that was one of the greatest displays of hockey I've ever seen. So
yeah, like that game was like must watch. Like in Montreal, Canada versus USA. Like Canada didn't win the game, but like from start to finish, it was a great game to watch.
Oh, yeah.
And then obviously in the gold medal game or the trophy game, whatever you want to call it, because now they have the Four Nations Cup. But it was great to watch. And I mean, like I said, I think Canada really needed that win on all fronts. But yeah, like you said, it's hard to go back to regular season hockey after that. Going to watch Crosby, McKinnon, and all those guys together, and then just watching the Ducks and Flyers, for example. Like it's pretty, like it's a far fall from grace. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know, Dylan, if I've told you, like for those who don't know me much, my childhood sports were cricket and soccer. So getting into hockey, I've been a hockey fan recently, only maybe a couple years ago. It's like watching India and Pakistan in cricket. So two biggest rivalries, 2 borders that fight with each other, that have rivalries in the past. And you almost get an entertainment value out of it. It's there for the politics. There was politics involved. There was energy involved. There was entertainment. So, yeah, I was like you said, I wasn't as interested in watching the Four Nation face out to begin with, but especially after that Canada-USA game, everybody asked me to watch. 3 fights in within the 9 seconds. Then the final, Connor McDavid scoring the OT winner. All elements included. It was a fun, good way, and I hope the NHL continues the tradition. I don't want them to go back to like All-Star Classics. Let them keep the countries playing. Maybe add a couple more countries if we can here and there, and make it fun. But yeah, it was an overall great Four Nations tournament.
Yeah, like I would much rather that than watching Kucherov pass a puck around in the All-Star game.
yeah, we can thank Kucherov for the tournament because I think he put an end to that.
That was brutal. But yeah, I'd much rather watch competitive hockey than an All-Star game.
Yeah. And Canada really needed that win against the States in that gold medal game. Like, really needed it.
Yeah.
Like, they had the president going in there just canning all over. And, like, even some American, like, lots of American high political powers were talking about the 51st state. So, and I was in a bar watching that game with some buddies. And you know how much it means to Canadians that we won that hockey game.
Yeah.
Like, some people in that bar probably never watched a hockey game in their life.
Yeah.
After that, everyone was singing "Oh Canada" after it, and it was quite the feeling. So, really glad we won that one.
Yeah. Like I don't really watch a lot of hockey games in full anymore. Like I did last year, but right now I'm just too busy and stuff. But like I was glued to the TV for all those games. Like I was at my fiance's house, and like we were gonna go to bed, but it was overtime. You can't go to bed when there's overtime on. So, and watching McDavid score that goal, the only time I'll ever cheer for that guy, when he's in a Canada jersey. It was just electric stuff. I mean, it's gonna be hard to go back to regular season and stuff, but yeah, like you said, I hope we can find a way to have that like at least every other year or something. With Olympics coming up as well, like that's exciting stuff. And I wanted to mention Jordy Binnington. I think we all owe him an apology. I especially do. We mentioned the goaltending before the tournament, and I was just not thrilled with it. I didn't think it was that great, but I mean, Jordy Binnington played every game, and I forgot how good he was in Boston because he was unbelievable in that game. But yeah, I think as a country, we all owe him an apology a little bit. And yeah, any other thoughts on the Four Nations?
Well, along with Jordan Binnington, obviously, yeah, he could. Those early games, he was kind of getting shit on a little bit there. So, but he's a big time goalie.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. Regular season might not be phenomenal. See that guy in the playoffs? He's just lights out. And another guy, shout out Mitch Marner.
He was so bad in that one game where he scored the game winner, though. I texted Nolan and I was like, Mitch Marner looks like crap tonight. And then he scored the OT winner, or the game winner. I'm like, never mind, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. But yeah, it was good to see like all those guys kind of just come together really quickly and just find that spark. Like the Canada power play in that first game just immediately clicked. And that's like what everyone wanted to see.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. Jordan Binnington, especially seeing after the Four Nations final, I think it's almost resemblance like Dan Vladar. Like he may not be consistent as times, but when you need those key timely saves, he'll come and save it for you. Jordan Binnington won the game for US, especially for Canada, especially in that overtime. If he had not made that couple consecutive saves, I could have gone US's way. So yeah, kudos to Jordan Binnington, kudos to Nathan McKinnon, McDavid, all those players who connected well. Like they didn't even have weeks to practice or click together.
Yeah.
Usually some teams you need time to click together. Like we talked about Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost, they're still finding the chemistry. Kuzmenko and Peltier. So I think it was surprising to see that they all connected. When all great minds come together at one place, you get dream work coming through with teamwork. So I think that was the main essential key theme from the Four Nations.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all about those guys that want to rise to the occasion and can compete, like the McDavids of the world. But yeah, you like those guys that can answer the call when it matters, like in a final, or like, for example, the Four Nations final, or the Stanley Cup final, or the Olympics. Like those guys that love to compete and love those big moments. All right, to wrap up, I have a fun little segment. If you could change or add one rule in the NHL, what would it be? Think about, like, because the Four Nations, they changed their point system for the tournament. I forget what the breakdown was, but people want the NHL to take a different point percentage and change the way the point system works. Like, you get 1 point, or you get no points for OT loss, you get 1 point for the loss, or 3 wins, or 3 for the win. Think kind of like that. What's one rule or you would either change or add in the NHL?
Yeah, I think that point scoring system for teams is a lot better than what we have now, obviously. Wouldn't make too big of a difference, just the OT win would be kind of worth 2 instead of the 3 with the regular win, which it would be. So
it's 3 points for a win in regulation, 2 points for a win in overtime shootout, and 1 point for a loss in overtime or shootout. So you get 0 points if you lose.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, I think that would be fantastic. So, kind of get those overtime merchant teams a little out of the conversation, hopefully. So, but I think the trapezoid rule for goaltenders, I'm not a huge fan of that.
Yeah.
But wouldn't make too big of a difference because obviously goalie's not going to go to the corner very often.
Well, unless you're on Axel.
Yeah.
That's the reason that rule happened.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good rule to change because that would make goalies want to go out more and shoot the puck from further away.
Yeah, Mike Smith is wishing that happened. Would have been a lot more goals against. Holy man.
Yeah, love that thought of the point system converting from Four Nations. But one thing I want to change from what I've seen, especially, there are some unfair calls by the officials in between here and there in the NHL. So the players on the ice, they may be able to see what happened on the ice. So I want to introduce some kind of like review system where, like in cricket, like the on-field players can get together, discuss, and challenge for an official's call. So for example, if you want that decision to be reversed or added more time. Let's say, for example, in the high stick, if an official misses an high stick, the team maybe gets 1 or 2 chances, maybe 3 even in a game, to get together for maybe like 5 or 10 seconds, talk it with their coach, saying, hey, they missed the high stick, can we review it? Can we get the situation room to... And I don't know if it will legitimately happen, but if the players have some control over to look at decisions they think that's fair to their team, then we don't have to talk about official controversials. Of course, they don't do post-media press conferences and all. So that way you can get an insight why that call was made. And yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. I think, not that it's necessarily a rule, but I think it'd be really cool if we got to speak to the refs after the game, like kind of like a press conference. Because a lot of the time I don't think they just kind of go on with their day. Like if they have a bad game or they have a bad call that kind of just sways the way of a game, they kind of just like, oh, okay, well I don't have to speak to anybody. But yeah, I like that idea. As long as they had like a limit to how many times you could do it, like if you had 2, and if you have one
cricket,
wrong,
you have to
and then you lose
game,
it
so,
if you don't get it right. Yeah, I don't mind that idea. But yeah, I mean, for me, yeah, the point system, I mean, it's not a huge thing for me, but it'd be cool to see it happen. I mean, yeah, it would take away the people or the teams that push just for overtime, like with 3 minutes left if it's a tied game, and just hang out behind your net. Then you get the free point, but that obviously eliminates that and pushes for more regulation wins. That might be more exciting. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You guys have anything else to add before we wrap up?
One more thing for like officials, we need like a solidified standard for goalie interference. Because it has been absolutely terrible. Some of the calls that have been seen. So, like, you could absolutely kill the goalie, no goalie interference, but then the next game you'll poke his glove and it's coming back.
Well, because at the start of the year, Elliot Freeman and Kyle Bukas had mentioned this on 32 Thoughts. They spoke about it a lot. They tried to set a standard, like in that first like 3 months or so. Like, if you touch the goalie, if you're in the blue paint, it's not a goal. But then they went back on it and they've become loose with it again, and it's like a very unpredictable call. Like, you can't tell what is and what isn't. Like, if you push the goalie with your stick when you're hitting the puck, did you push him in or were you just going for the puck? Like, it's such a back and forth call, and I think that also needs to be discussed as well. It'll be interesting to see what changes happen and what things do change with the new CBA. Not just money-wise, but just like on all fronts. Yeah, do you have anything to add?
Yes, something relating to goaltender, it's also being consistent general officials wise as well. Like one day you can, if you hit behind the numbers, you get a two minute. Or I think there was this one game when Kevin Ball got injured. He just recently returned back to the Flames, but it was a 5-minute call on the ice. The officials called it. Then they went to the situation room. They reversed it back to 2. Of course, Kevin Ball was injured. He was. We are assuming it's a concussion protocol, of course. But I think if they call something, stick with it.
Yeah.
Unless you have a different explanation, which I don't think so. If it was serious, the official saw it and is on ice, keep the call. No need to waste time going back to review it. I know it's their protocol, but again, why would you change something that's a 5-minute to a 2-minute? Like, it makes no sense. So, just a bit more of consistency that I'm looking for.
Or with the NHL and the NHLPA, I know they're, or the player safety, sorry. I know they're two different things, but like, if you see a hit and then give it 5 minutes, take it away, they don't get a penalty and then they get suspended the next day, that's bad on the officials because you missed a suspendable play that happened and you weren't even penalized for it, and the other team that has the injured player never got a power play, never got an opportunity for it. So I think on all fronts it's just officiating and keeping a set standard to almost every call.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's pretty much it. We're going to wrap it up here. Thank you both for joining me today. It was great to have you both.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course. We'll definitely do this again sometime. I'll do this. Where can people find you on social medias and obviously your own podcast and stuff? Yeah,
I'm on CGY_Anand, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. LinkedIn also, if you search up Anand Unnithan, you should be able to find me. I'm looking to start something online. Hockey Talk with Anand is my official show. I've been doing like some graphics here and there, but I haven't been able to put a consistent show yet. Of course, we are busy with school projects. The capstone project is taking time, so stay tuned. I'm starting to work with hopefully Dylan. I'll have you on my show. Cale also, if you keep in touch with me, we can have you on the show. But yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah.
For sure, it's great to have you. All right, till next time, we'll be back next week. I got an interview to post on here, so look forward to that. Yeah, and as always, make sure to dump and chase.